Hello everyone and welcome to VLADA'S place. Would you believe that for the last 35 years since I lived in US, I never made pot roast? This almost $50 piece of beef went on sale for $13.89, and this was a perfect opportunity to try it. The main ingredients are obviously beef, onions, celery, carrots, and potatoes. I have 1 large onion and 4 sticks of celery laid on the bottom of the pan. And I'm also going to use about 6 small carrots and about 6 to 7 small potatoes. Before we start working on our meat, let's heat up the oven to 375. Next, we're going to dry our meat to remove all the extra moisture, and then we're just going to salt it and add some pepper per taste. Pat the spices in. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now we're gonna add some flour, and since this is such a big piece of beef, I would suggest to just pour flour on top, pat it in, shake all the excess flour off, and just do this all around because we want this meat to keep the moisture in. So with a little flour on it, it's gonna keep the moisture and it's also gonna thicken the gravy. I have some olive oil preheating, and on side I have a new starter for sourdough bread. Now when it comes to oil, wait till oil is super hot and then add the beef. We want to sear the beef quickly. While meat is cooking, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna clean a few of these plums. They are smoked plums, which I bought on my trip in France earlier this year. And I like using them whenever I have meat. They go especially good with pork, but I'm just gonna add a few of these to the roast just to capture some of that beautiful smoky flavor. Smoked dry plums or prunes are very common in France and in Europe in general. By the way, this is optional, and you can see I'm only using few. Now this is my secret ingredient, which is a homemade red wine. When working with this size of beef, be careful because this is pretty heavy and you want to make sure the fat or the oil does not splatter on your hands. And in my case, I gotta admit, my hands are not as strong as they used to be. So I have to use both my muscles and my brain to make sure that I execute this properly. I guess this is just the beauty of getting old. This side looks great, and while the other side is searing, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna crush some garlic. And garlic is per taste. I'm using about 7 or 8 cloves, but you can use couple, or if you like garlic taste, you can add as many as you like. The meat looks great, and we also have the bed for our meat ready as well. Let's add a little salt and pepper over veggies. As for the wine, any red wine will do, but if you can choose, thicker and heavier red wines will be better. This beautiful red was grown and made right here in my neighborhood. When the meat is just about ready, we're gonna add plums and let them cook for not more than a minute. Place the meat over the veggies, and now we're just gonna add all our spices and wine and broth and all the other things that we will complement this particular dish. I'm gonna pour the hot olive oil from the pan over the meat, and then I'm gonna add some broth to this dish to scrape all those drippings from the meat. Let the broth cook for about a minute or two. I generally add about 2 cups of wine, and I'm only measuring because of you, but I don't even think about it. I just add about a little bit more than a half a bottle. Here comes a hot beef broth, and we have about a cup of beef broth in here. potatoes, and 2-3 bay leaves. As for fresh herbs, I'm going to pick up some fresh rosemary, and then I'm going to check in my garden to see if I have any oregano or thyme. It's a month of December and herbs are not thriving at the moment, but I did manage to get few leaves of fresh oregano. When adding fresh herbs, keep in mind that you don't want to overwhelm the flavor of meat with herbs. So that's why I'm using only 1 stick of rosemary and only a little bit of oregano. We're going to season potatoes with a little bit of salt, and then we're going to finish the whole dish with extra olive oil. And the reason why we're adding so much olive oil is because this is a lean piece of meat, and potatoes also require a little extra fat. Garlic goes in last, and we are ready for roasting. If you remember, we have our oven preheated on 375, and we're gonna keep a roast on 375 for about 40 to 50 minutes. After that, I'm gonna reduce the temperature to 225, and I'm gonna allow it to roast for another 2 hours to 2.5 hours. While the roast is cooking, I'm out in a yard to dispose of these peelings in our compost. And by the way, composting is so much fun, so I would highly recommend to anybody who has opportunity to do this on their property. That compost will help me grow all kinds of healthy vegetables next spring. We are 2 hours into cooking and everything is looking good. The cooking time will depend on your beef and also on the temperature in your stove. But in any case, you'll know the meat is done once the fork can easily go through. I ended up with a lot of wonderful juice, which I want to turn into gravy. So I have drained the juice and I made a gravy. And I'm just going to pour the gravy back over meat and let it simmer for another 5 to 10 minutes. This is such an easy and delicious meal, and I would highly recommend it, especially if you can find your beef on sale. An American classic, and a kind of recipe that's perfect for holiday season. Like always, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this recipe, consider subscribing because more is on the way.